Royal Caribbean is shaking things up in Mexico, Carnival faces yet another controversy, tragedy sparks safety debates, and Holland America opens up something that they had stopped offering but they're ready to offer again. There's a lot to talk about in this week of cruise news, so let's talk ship. First, let's talk about Royal Caribbean and their eye-watering investment of $600 million to create Perfect Day Mexico in Costa Maya. Now, this promises cruisers an unforgettable experience, the world's longest lazy river, adults-only retreats, and endless dining and drinking options. Now, that sounds like a dream come true, right? Well, some local business owners, they're not thrilled. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Now, we've known about this change for a while. We've known that Royal Caribbean is buying the Costa Maya cruise port, but it's finally coming together because Royal Caribbean has just officially finally closed on a $292 million purchase of the Costa Maya port and some surrounding land. It happened on July 11th, with plans to invest hundreds of millions more over the next 2 years to complete the project by fall of 2027. Now, Royal Caribbean is gonna call this Perfect Day Mexico. And as I noted, it's supposed to be pretty impressive. It's gonna span more than 200 acres, which is over 60% larger than Royal Caribbean's current Perfect Day at Coco Cay. And if you've ever been there, Perfect Day at Coco Cay is pretty huge and pretty impressive. Now, Perfect Day Mexico is supposed to feature, like I said, that world's longest lazy river, 2,400 feet long to be specific, a 170-foot Jaguar Peak slide tower with 31 slides, adults-only infinity pools, and multiple dining venues and bars. Now, it's supposed to be linked to the new Maya train route, which is aimed to funnel guests into local excursions and into the local town. But some local vendors, they have a big fear. They fear that cruisers are going to want to stay within the private resort walls. And that's going to keep dollars out of the local community and away from these small businesses that currently depend heavily on cruiser spend. They're afraid that this hyper-localization of cruise passenger traffic might drain those tourist dollars away from their own businesses. And this is a pretty valid concern. If you've ever visited Costa Maya, the cruise port that exists there now is pretty commercialized, but because it is kind of smallish for the number of passengers it gets, and because it gets so crowded, folks do spill out into the local community, which compared to places like Cozumel is a little bit more underdeveloped. But that does bring a lot of tourist dollars to the local community. And one of my favorite spots in Costa Maya, a locally owned business, is Nacional Beach Club. It sits just outside the cruise terminal area. Now, I've been so many times that over time I've gotten to know the owner and I've chatted with him a little bit about it. And he's also understandably worried about what this change means for his business. Are people going to be willing to exit the terminal when there's so much to do there and a lot of it free to visit businesses like his? And a lot of other tour operators share this concern. So I want to know, do you think Perfect Day Mexico is a win for cruisers or a loss for the local economy? And by the way, speaking of Nacional Beach Club, if you are visiting Costa Maya and you want to visit my favorite spot in Costa Maya and support the local economy, I will give you the direct booking link below. And when checking out, just use code ProfMelissa for a special discount. Now, that's not the only controversy hitting Mexican ports. Mexico has started charging cruisers their new tourist tax. It's $5 now, and it's supposed to raise to $21 per person over time. Now, again, like Royal Caribbean's purchase of Perfect Day Mexico and Costa Maya, this is not new information. We've known about this for months. But when the news first came out late last year, it created quite a stir. And a lot of the cruise lines, particularly Royal Caribbean, they fought tooth and nail. They fought really hard against this tax, going to the Mexican government, claiming, hey, we already pay hefty port fees. We may actually build itineraries around Mexico and not visit. Don't do this. So the new lower fee is a sort of compromise, but now that it's officially in place with no indication of reversal, and in fact plans for it to rise, but still not as much as it was originally proposed to be, some cruise passengers are reconsidering Mexico stops altogether. So I want to know, is this new tax no big deal to you? Is it just the cost of travel? Or is it going to impact your travel plans? Will you avoid Mexican cruise ports because of it? And speaking of cruising drama, Carnival's new Have Fun, Be Safe guidelines has sparked some outrage and even accusations of cultural targeting. Carnival's ban on Bluetooth speakers, which actually that's not anything new. They've had that for years, and for some reason that's just starting to become an outcry on social media. But yes, Carnival has banned Bluetooth speakers for a really long time. But a newer ban is they have banned clack fans. So not those, battery operated fans, but the fans that you actually open, they make a loud clack, you fan yourself, and it's part of the really popular line dance, Boots on the Ground. So recently, Carnival has banned the clack fans, at least in the indoor nightclubs, saying that it's out of a concern for passenger safety. You can't have these big fans and people clacking them and waving them and hitting people in the nightclubs. But then on top of that, Carnival now has reportedly made some significant music changes. And in particular, they started to scale back on the rap music. And as a hip hop fan myself, I love rap. It's my favorite genre. It has always been from childhood. I'm really bummed to hear this. I hope it's not true. It's actually one of the reasons I love cruising on Carnival. I love the music, I love the line dances, I love the wobble, I love boots on the ground. But for now, these are mostly just social media rumors. It remains to be seen if they've actually put a mandate in place to play less rap music or certain types of more socially acceptable rap music or not. Now, my next cruise in a few weeks is on Carnival Sunrise, so I'll be sure to let you know whether this scaling back on rap music is real or not. Because if anyone's gonna notice it, it's gonna be me. I love rap music. Now, because of these changes, Carnival has been starting to get some accusations of cultural targeting, saying that they're coming for the African American community, that you don't want African Americans to cruise on Carnival. And of course, Carnival has come out and denied this. And they've even tried to dispel the notion that they've made any music changes, but this outcry just continues to grow, especially on social media. Now, Carnival's gone so far as even having some of their cruise directors. I saw Kendall Fire posted on Facebook. She's a popular Carnival cruise director. Her fan saying she's gonna do her boots on the ground dance out at the sail away party. So it's not true that fans are universally banned just in the nightclubs, but this outcry does continue to grow. So I want to know, what's your take? Do you think Carnival is targeting any cultural groups here? What do you think is happening? Or is it just a much ado about nothing? Now, a heartbreaking story from Royal Caribbean raises critical questions about onboard ship safety and also serves as a critical reminder for all of us. Mohammed Hamza from Ohio, he tragically lost his wife, Julia, after she suffered multiple heart attacks on a cruise. This just happened a few weeks ago on June 27th. Julia Hamza, 66, was on board Royal Caribbean's Freedom of the Seas when she suffered a heart attack during a sea day. Now, the onboard medical team jumped into action. They did what they could. They stabilized her, but they quickly realized they need to do a medevac. So they arranged for that medevac to Belize's Carl Huesner Memorial Hospital. And this is just a slow process. It took over 2 critical hours to get all of this planned and to get her transported to this hospital. Also, it required $15,000 in upfront capital before they would do it. So Hamza had to pay $15,000 because his insurers, his health insurance, balked, saying that it's excluded from the policy. Now, this is heartbreaking and people don't realize this, but yes, most health insurance policies do not cover these sorts of things. They do not cover you on board. They do not cover medevacs. Medevacs are extremely expensive, $15,000 in this case. And sometimes your American health insurance doesn't even cover you when you're abroad. And a lot of cruisers have no idea about this. So Hamza didn't exactly have $15,000 stacked in his stateroom safe, so he had to use his credit card to pay it. He had no other options. Now, he's saying that the emergency evacuation delays cost her her life because she did unfortunately pass away. And he's saying that lost time with how long it took for them to arrange the transport, the whole financial aspect, led to her death. Now, Mohammed has since joined the International Cruise Victims Association, which is a consumer group that calls for standardized shipboard care protocols, faster evacuation chains, and clear insurance mandates for passengers. But this devastating story, it reminds us of the importance of comprehensive travel insurance. Now, I share these stories all the time. Almost every single week, there's some tragic story of someone who passes away on a cruise ship or gets financially devastated because of medical care they need while on a cruise because they think their health insurance is going to cover them. And it doesn't. And look, I used to play silly games too, and luckily I didn't win any silly prizes. For years, I traveled and I cruised without travel insurance because of a few reasons. One, I stupidly thought I didn't need it. I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm somewhat fit. And I now know crazy things can happen to anyone, even young, fit, healthy people. It doesn't matter. You never know when something's going to happen. But the other reason I avoided travel insurance is because it just overwhelmed and confused me. I would look at options. I wasn't sure what was what. There was a lot of technical jargon. So I finally invested a lot of time and effort, put it all together, decided what was best, consulted with other people, and I finally bought an annual travel insurance coverage plan for myself and my whole family. I pay one flat fee per year. It covers me and my children for all of our travel, cruise, land, and otherwise. And I also took the time to put together an easy to follow travel insurance guide for cruisers, and I'll share that link with you below. And I will tell you, it has paid for itself with policy claims 3 out of the last 4 years, including recently when I had to seek treatment on Carnival Mardi Gras for having the flu. It was a $534 bill. It was paid by my insurance plan in less than a week. Now, regardless of who, what, when, where, how, you get travel insurance, cruisers, for the love of Pete, please just get travel insurance, please. I don't want to cover you in a story like this in the future. Adding more concerns at sea, and another Royal Caribbean concern at sea, over 140 passengers on Royal Caribbean's Navigator of the Seas recently fell ill with severe gastrointestinal issues, which prompted a CDC investigation. Now, unfortunately, this is not uncommon. I cover this story pretty regularly too. And now, of course, cruise lines claim they have rigorous cleaning protocols, but outbreaks still happen. And I know cruise critics like to call cruise ships floating Petri dishes. And as much as I love to cruise, I have to admit that description is not entirely inaccurate. So I want to know, how do you stay healthy on board? For me personally, I try to steer clear of the buffets. I've seen a lot of gross behavior in cruise line buffets from cruisers. They don't wash their hands, they touch things, they sneeze, they cough, they touch their nose, they pick things up, they put it down. It's gross. Grosses me out. I'm also a big fan of hand sanitizer and washing your hands frequently. But even these things are not a guarantee. As I mentioned, I got sick on Mardi Gras and I got sick on Jubilee a few months later, both with the flu. And thank goodness I do have that travel insurance policy. But even with diligence, I still get sick on cruises sometimes. So I want to know, do you have any special tips to stay healthy on a cruise? Because I need to hear them too. Now, this week in cruise news, it hasn't been all gloom and doom, fees, taxes, death, and illness, but there's some good stuff too, really. Carnival Cruise Line is streamlining mornings by launching their coffee to go through their Hub app. I am super excited about this. This seems like such a stupid, silly, insignificant thing, but I love coffee and I love Carnival in spite of their stupid decisions lately, but I'm really excited about this. Now, on certain ships, and it's supposed to be deployed fleet-wide, you can order your JavaBlue coffee ahead and skip those pesky lines. Now, there are some specifics and details. Again, it's not on every ship yet. I saw it posted by Carnival Ambassador John Heald on his Facebook page. But again, as a big fan of coffee and carnivals and someone who hates lines and waiting, this is a little bit of news that has me super excited. And during a time when nearly every Carnival decision this summer seems to tick people off and invite controversy, this is the rare, welcome, good decision. So kudos on this one, Carnival. Now, obviously, I love cruising, and you probably do too, or you wouldn't be here. But have you ever thought about permanently cruising into retirement? Sharon Lane from Orange County did just that, swapping her retirement home for a villa, and by villa, I mean a cruise ship stateroom, on a residential cruise ship called Villa V. It's cheaper, it includes meals and housekeeping, and of course that amazing cruise experience where you get to see the ocean and places all over the world. So honestly, it's retirement goals for many, and I see people sharing this over and over on social media, saying, I want to be this person when I grow up. But this one might surprise you. As much as I love cruising, and I do love cruising, I cruise monthly, I also love being at home. I love being on land and having my feet on the ground. So I don't think that this would be for me, but would you do it? And finally, speaking of retirement homes at sea, let's talk about Holland America Line. Okay, I'm kidding. I love Holland America Line. It does skew older. It does have a stereotype of being the retirement home of the sea, but I do love Holland. There's a lot of great things about it. I actually recently made a review video about Holland America Line. I'll drop that link below if you want to check it out. But they have some news of something that they're offering, and that is the behind the scenes ship tours. They used to offer it, then they stopped offering it, but they're back. For the low price of $179, you can explore the bridge, the galley, the engine room, the places on a ship that are normally off limits for us cruisers. Perfect for cruise nerds like me who love seeing the behind the scenes stuff. I did recently do a behind the scenes kitchen tour with Carnival, and I found it fascinating. But honestly, I don't know if I would pay $179 per person just for this sort of thing. But what do you think? Is it worth the splurge?